All right. Hello, my Paleo Keto Nutrition Club friends. Here we are, officially week 2, unofficially week 4 of this Monday nutrition talk. Good stuff so far. So today, the topic I want to talk about is setting your perfect day. And so the perfect day is an exercise that I like to do with one-on-one nutrition clients. And it's essentially a way to get started with figuring out what would you like to eat, and then how can we make that work from a health standpoint. And so for in order to hit the perfect day, I have a couple criteria that you ought to try and hit. So we're trying to hit a certain calorie target, we're trying to hit a certain macronutrient target, and we're trying to max out your micronutrients. In the weeks going forward, I'm going to be talking about the potential adverse outcomes from micronutrient deficiencies. But I don't want to just start jumping right into, well, you're not getting enough magnesium, Dave, and this is a problem, but I never told you how to get there in the first place. So I like to kind of lead with, here's how you can do things, and then discuss afterwards, what are the ramifications, what's the implications if you don't follow through with this perfect day plan. The other thing about the perfect day is it's going to be a little different for everybody. So I'm going to share my perfect day. And it ought to be something that's satisfying. It ought to be something that's realistic and sustainable. And that's why it's going to be individualized, right? If I take you through the foods that I eat today and you look at that and it's like, well, I hate all of that, then that's not going to be your perfect day, right? It's definitely not going to be realistic. It's definitely not going to be sustainable. Also, like for Dave, he's doing keto. There's going to be some variation there in his calorie and macro targets compared to mine. So let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to bring up Cronometer. Maybe. All right, so here we have a day of eating. And part of what I'm going to talk about today as well is how to use Cronometer effectively, where it gets a little quirky, and how to work around that. So let's just real quick go up. It's going to be weird now because I'm in a shared screen. Oh, here we go. Settings. Sorry, guys. So a couple things I did for this example. I set it to a 2,000 calorie diet in Cronometer, just because when I set out to make this perfect day, I wanted it to be an example of how I honestly typically eat, but to show that I could hit those micronutrient targets in a 2,000 calorie diet, because that's kind of the generic default for adult diets in America. And so despite setting here as my basal metabolic rate as 2,000 calories and my custom energy target as 2,000 calories, when I go into diary, it's still showing that I burned 2,200 calories, or 2,253. And so what's the deal with that? So when we go back to settings, there is something in here called the thermic effect of food. And I had actually selected that. And so basically what this means is that a calorie is not a calorie, because when we're eating higher protein, our body actually requires to burn extra calories in order to digest that food. So what chronometer did was actually, even though I ate 2,100 calories, it's saying that I burned 22, because it's saying I used an extra 100, maybe a little less, 85 calories to actually digest that food. So that's where it can become a little weird to look at. If you're like Dave, if you're doing keto, fat is basically a zero thermic effect. And if that's the majority of your calories, you're going to want to go ahead into settings and undo, and just undo the thermic effect of food. That'll probably make your life a little easier. So let's see if that changed anything. I can't hit the right thing. Yeah, so there you go. So now I'm at 2,000. And so that's what that was right there. All right, so I just want to talk about that real quick. And so even in my own example of trying to budget on a 2,000 calorie diet and max out my micronutrients, I had to get a little over 2,000 calories in order to get that job done. Unless I wanted to get weird and call, say I was only going to eat a third of a banana or something like that. I didn't want to do that. All right. So 2,000 was my calorie target. And then I set minimums for protein, or for my macros. I want to bring that up here in a second as well. So let's go over here. And so here's how I arrived at my minimums, and here's how you would arrive at your minimums. So ultimately what you want to do is take your body weight and times it by 10. So at 215 pounds, my calories, really my minimum should be 2,015 calories, right? Or 2,150 calories. And then what I want to do is take 0.75% of my weight in pounds in grams of protein as a minimum, right? I really like 1 gram per pound of protein. So really ideally trying to strive for 215 grams of protein. But as a minimum, we want to get to 0.75 of that. My minimum for carbs are going to be about 125 to 130 if you're not doing keto, because this is what your brain needs at a minimum to fuel on glucose. And then my minimum for fats is going to be 30 grams, because below this, then we're likely not giving our body enough fats for hormone production. And so those minimums, setting up, I made a sheet here, setting up, 100, and we'll call it 190 grams of protein, I'll call it 130 grams of carbs, 30 grams of fat. That won't actually add up to 2,100 calories. Okay, so just so you know that. So you have a budget there to try and figure out where you're going to go over. And I actually put this onto a document, so I'll show you that. Right, so my body weight is 215, so therefore my minimum calorie target is going to be 2,150. 0.75 of 215 is actually only 160 grams per day, and again, carbs 130, fat 30. And so I'm going to try and make sure I first hit all of these minimums and then go over in one of them in order to hit the 2,150 in calories. So here's what I actually ate to get the job done. So in the morning, this is about 5:30 a.m. See you, Jake. I had a cup of apple cider. I put 2 scoops of apple fiber in there, a scoop of creatine, and a scoop of that microbiome supplement we talked about. And I just chugged that down as a morning bathroom warm-up, we'll call it that. And then I like to put a little bit of substance in my belly. So I did a half a cup of Greek yogurt with a tablespoon of hemp seeds. And this is my pre-workout routine. I work out. After my workout, I usually, to be quite honest, head over to QT. I get one of those Fairlife Core Power Elites. They have 42 grams of protein. I eat a banana, and this eggs and brisket is actually usually in one of their wraps. I left the wrap out for example purposes. I think it would be ideal if we were cooking on our own. But I wanted to demonstrate that this, despite it being mostly a convenience breakfast, actually is a really healthy breakfast that fits in with my perfect day. Lunch, I call it TV dinner. This is a frozen meal. So it's by the company Deep, which was formerly Tandoori Kitchen. And it's the spinach chicken tikka. It's got 27 grams of protein, and it's minimal ingredients. It's chicken, spinach, and turmeric rice. Of all the frozen meals that I recommend, there's not many. I really like this company Deep, and they make my life a lot easier. And the one thing I will say is, we talked a little bit about, plastics and whatnot. Little life hack: if you have one of these frozen dinners, throw it on a plate, take it out of the plastic before you microwave it, and that will save you from some of those toxins. So far, pretty easy day. A little drink in the morning, a yogurt with some hemp seeds, grab and go at QT, frozen lunch, right? You guys are like, what the heck? I thought, you're supposed to be the health guy, and you're telling me I can get all this grab and go stuff. Well, we're going to take a look and see how that actually gets us quite a bit of nutrients. And then, so for dinner, here's where we have to do some cooking. So I've been going over to Price Chopper, and they have 10-ounce KC strips. I actually use sirloin as an example today, again, for the example of hitting the calories. So 10-ounce sirloin with an organic Earl Super Green salad on the side, or you could do basically like a steak salad, right? And so you put on some super greens, olive oil, salt, and I added in some blueberries. You can add those in however you want. Maybe you want to put the blueberries up with the Greek yogurt and hemp seeds. That's fine. Believe it or not, this will actually get me 2155.5 calories. It's going to give me 190 grams of protein, 133 grams of carbs, and 77 grams of fat. So if you're looking at this and you're thinking to yourself like, okay, cool, like sounds pretty basic, sounds pretty straightforward. My challenge to you, and this is going to be the most important part, is the experiential part, is to go try and do this on your own. Think about foods that you normally eat, plug them into Cronometer, and see if it matches with your minimums. So again, that's going to be calories 10 times your body weight. It's going to be protein 0.75 times your body weight. Dave, it'll be a little different for your macros. For carbs and fat, you're basically going to flip them. Carbs are going to be 130, fat 30. I challenge you to do this and then look at your daily report and see where you're at on your micronutrients. Okay. In order to get maxed out micronutrients and keep my supplement list at a minimum, so I've got 3 supplements here. I've got the Whole Earth and Sea Men's Multi. I've got cod liver oil, which according to Chris Kresser shouldn't even be considered a supplement. It's food. And I've got a scoop of the Ionic Fizz Magnesium Multi. I am maxed out 99.9% on the micronutrients in Cronometer. So let me show you that. The reason I challenge you is this was not easy. It was, even though it looks super basic, it took a lot of trial and error to get it done, to figure it out. And so here we go. So scrolling down, and here's what we're looking at. And so if anybody ends up watching this and they haven't used Chronometer yet, I generally use it on my phone, but you can use it in the browser, and you get this full micronutrient report. It's pretty awesome, right? So here you can see the red means I actually went above what they would normally call the upper limit, which unless it's like, you know, the retinol form of vitamin A, there's, you know, rarely a circumstance where going over is going to be an issue. Going under chronically, you know, for days, weeks, years, can present some issues, which we're going to be talking about in future meetings. So I'm maxing out my vitamins, I'm maxing out my minerals, and maxing out my amino acids. We're also,
hey, Dennis.
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you see Liz trying to get on?
Oh,
A request.
no problem. No, I did not, because I'm sharing my screen.
I'm only communicating with her on email, but she did say she was trying to get on at some point. So.
Yep, I just let her in. Hi, Liz. Sorry if you're waiting for long.
I don't think she hears you yet.
Okay.
Checking her audio. There you go.
And so we can look at fats as well. So some things aren't going to have targets. You know, there's no real target for starch, no real target for sugars, alcohol, caffeine. We could custom set that. That's something that we could definitely do. Monounsaturated and all that. No real targets. But I found it really interesting that I was actually at 155% of my omega-3s and only 36% of my omega-6s. And this is why this exercise, you know, it might even still seem trivial as I'm taking you through this, but this is why it's so important to do. Because, you know, I even get into my own dogma, right? One of the things I talk about a lot is how the standard American diet is super high on omega-6s, and we're not getting enough omega-3s. I'm telling people this all the time. It's like become, you know, this thing that I say automatically because I've been fed it so much. It's like, oh no, the standard American diet, you're getting like 20 omega-6s to 1 omega-3. And so you got to take cod liver oil. We need to be eating more fish. And I'm, you know, hammering on this. And I started making the assumption that, yeah, I'm getting too much omega-6, right? And then I come to look at my perfect day, which I based off of a pretty, you know, common way that I eat, and I'm hardly getting any omega-6s. And so that can present an issue in and of itself as well. Like, yeah, having omega-6s to omega-3 in a 20-to-1 ratio is an issue, but not getting enough omega-6, especially with my goals, you know, muscle building goals, that's going to be an issue. Omega-6 is important in the acute response to exercise and to protein synthesis. So there's something here to be learned for everyone. So let's check this out. Let me give you an example. So let's delete this whole earth and sea. All right, so no multi. Look at that. Not enough B1, right? CrossFitters, you're constantly getting lactic acid buildup in your workouts. Guess what B1 helps with? Clearance of lactic acid. You know, obviously you're clearing most of it post-workout pretty rapidly, but a lot of that's lingering. You know, if you're somebody who's got, you know, DOMs quite frequently, B1 can be something that's helpful. It's good for a lot of other things as well. Vitamin E, you know, a great antioxidant. We had a big talk on antioxidants a couple of weeks ago. Copper. So, you know, right off the bat, the multi is filling in some gaps. Let's take out this Ionic Fizz. More. Manganese, not one you often think about. Super important for cellular health. Vitamin C, right? Most people know how important vitamin C is for your immune system. Folate, okay? So it starts to go down, and it would literally be, and so I tried this experiment before I put the supplements in. I wanted to see if I could max those out on food in a 2,000 calorie diet, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't figure it out unless I'm going to add in, beef liver and turkey heart or, whatever, all these like very obscure foods. You're just honestly not going to be able to get the job done. Let's see, what else? What else can I take out? Let's take out the hemp seeds. Oh, I'm surprised. I'm surprised magnesium's staying high. All right, so let's talk about a couple other things that I discovered in this process that will be important for you, because I'm encouraging you all to try this and track this. So a couple of things I had realizations about. For instance, this DEEP, right? That's in there probably by my entry. So a lot of the entries in this app are user entries. And so what it's going to end up tracking or telling you in the micronutrients is just whatever's on the label. But the label isn't going this detailed about every micronutrient. It's really just talking about some of the essentials, vitamin C. I forget exactly what they have to list. It's just a handful of micronutrients that they have to list on the label. It's certainly not all of this. It might be like calcium, vitamin C, and a couple other things. And so if you can use the search bar, and if you can find a search, for instance, like the beef sirloin, it's not showing it in here, but a lot of times it will say like USDA or CRBD, but it'll kind of like show you that it's like verified by a database, and that's going to give you a better readout. So for instance, if I get rid of the beef sirloin and do KC strip, oh, it doesn't recognize KC strip. You gotta call it New York strip. Okay, so like USDA choice, usually that's going to be a good option. Nobody, oh, that one is scanned. So you can see here how it was entered. So you want to go with the, whatever this thing is. Okay, so USDA choice, what is that little sign? It's like a little measuring cup. Oh, that's Denny's? What the heck?
Little beaker?
Yeah, a little beaker. I'll disregard that. Anyway, I've found that these ones, wherever it says like USDA choice, is typically a better option. I'm not sure now in hindsight if the barcode means anything, but let's add that in. Four ounce. We'll do 3. I found this really interesting. So check this out. It's saying that my amino acids aren't maxed out. And this was bugging me. And I think what this is a result of the fact that it's just not an accurate input, because protein especially from steak and from all animal foods are complete proteins. And so this is an important point if you guys are going to start to like look and you're starting to gamify this and get into the game of maxing out your macros. If you're eating animal-based proteins, you're getting all of your amino acids. Okay. So I'm still here with 162 grams of protein. And, my sources are basically yogurt. They're, 12 ounces of the New York strip, the chicken. This is not right. You're getting 100% of your amino acids. I can't fully explain that. I think it's a user entry issue. But yeah, there's just no way that you're not getting all of your amino acids. I've noticed that if you just opt for ground beef, if you're like somebody who has OCD and want to see this maxed out, if you just choose ground beef instead of any sort of strip or whatever, it'll max it out for you. So you could just do that equivalent weight. But you want to be accurate to whatever cut you're getting for the calorie and fat ratio. Because as you'll notice, granted, I did add 2 more ounces of the New York strip here, but it jacked my calories way up. It jacked the fat up quite a bit. So it does matter. So you want to be accurate with what cuts you're choosing. And it also, you'll notice like all of these went way down. So this was something, again, that was really, really bothering me when I was trying this out, because I'm like, how am I not getting enough, phosphorus? Like, how am I not getting enough of all these stuff? So you do have to be wary of user entry on here. But if we're trying to be certain about what we're doing and making sure that we're getting all of these micronutrients, then I don't think it's a lot to ask to do 3 supplements, a multivitamin and a magnesium in the evening. I found when I was doing these experiments, I was coming up short on magnesium a lot. I did a lot of iterations of my perfect day, and magnesium was frequently low. So as I put those in, check it out. It's almost all green again. Potassium's a little low in this instance. Phosphorus, for whatever reason. This could be, again, a user entry thing. So we'll back out. We'll go 0. Bear with me. I'll kind of wrap up this in a second, and I'll just talk about some ideas that I have. We'll go with 85. And we'll try and match it to that original 23. Yeah. So now we go down, it's all maxed out, right? So beef is beef. Like ground beef, 85% versus a New York strip versus whatever, tenderloin, sirloin. Like as far as the minerals go and the amino acids go, I don't think that there's going to be that much of a difference in phosphorus. If that exists somehow, I'll continue to look into it. I can't explain it at this point other than inconsistencies in the user entry. So I just wanted you to be aware of that, because I want to challenge you guys to make this something, that's a part of your life, daily maxing out of your micronutrients. Because again, I'm going to be talking about the issues that could come from chronic long-term deficiency in any one of these nutrients. And so I want you to see that there can be some inconsistencies with your food. I want you to see that you can offset most of that and just give yourself the confidence by filling in with a couple of multis, and that you can achieve it on a reasonable diet, right? It's like, very, very reasonable day. And so lastly, I'll share this. I took a photo, or I photo journaled. Are you guys seeing when I change the screen every time?
No, we just see chronometer.
Oh, you just see chronometer? Okay, let's do this. So you only saw Chronometer when I talked about the foods I ate as well?
Well, at one point you brought up a Google Doc,
Okay, good. You saw that. Okay, cool.
because that's in your browser, so you're sharing the browser.
Okay, cool. All right, so check it out. So here's what that looks like. These are all stock photos, but here you go. So I woke up, I had my apple cider with fiber. Imagine there's fiber in there. I had my yogurt with hemp. Like I said, you could put the blueberries in the yogurt. Here I am at QT, get my core power, banana, and egg and brisket. I go for that deep at lunch, and here's my steak salad. That and 2 supplements plus the cod liver oil, and I'm hitting 190 grams of protein, 130 grams of carbs, almost 80 grams of fat, and maxing out my micronutrients. So it's a very reasonable task. It is doable, it's achievable, and I'd like to ask you guys to try and do it. And that's the main purpose of this kind of walkthrough and this demonstration, was for y'all to see that. I did follow up with some experimenting. So when I add in my black seed oil, that does up my omega-6s a little bit, but still doesn't get me to 100%. But in all reality, I'm going to eat well above that calorie target. I'm going to accommodate for exercise. I'm going to accommodate for, the steps I get in a day. And so, but it gives me an idea of how do I want to spend those extra calories, right? So it's like omega-6s of all the places to be short. Well, cool. Well, maybe I'll just add a little more olive oil to that salad, right? So it can be pretty simple, but it's a much more informed way to go about strategizing, to go about how you're going to eat. If I was going to improve on that day, the first thing I would try and do is get that 190 grams of protein up to 215. The protein is, it's going to be the most satiating. It's going to align the most with my goals of building muscle, lean tissue, and not adding fat. It's going to help me with my recovery, and it's going to have a high thermic effect. So it's going to actually kind of help me burn calories while I'm eating more calories. And it's going to add to that micronutrient list. And then I would look and say, okay, well, how am I going to round this out, and how am I going to get those omega-6s? And so I would probably add in some olive oil with that. So yeah, what do y'all think?
Interesting. I just went back and looked at my old Chronometer stuff. I haven't been doing it recently, which I'm not pleased with the fact that I haven't been doing it. And it's interesting. Some days I was like perfect on my omegas and my proteins. I'm always deficient in my vitamins. Always. There's not a good day that I have found yet where I'm not massively deficient in vitamins and minerals. I usually hit my fats, fortunately. Well, fortunately, I need it for keto. My proteins, I always hit. But yeah, I'm definitely not hitting vitamins and minerals at all. I mean,
Right.
it's white and yellow. I hit B12, B6, B2, B3. That's about all I can count on. But everything else, I'm like severely under.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the sayings I'm going to start using, and as we kind of get into all these different vitamins, all these different minerals, what they're doing for you, and what a deficiency would look like acutely, like if you were truly deficient, and what just like a suboptimal amount would look like over time. But one of the sayings I kind of want to be going through your head is don't borrow from tomorrow, right? So for instance, right, if you're not getting enough calcium consistently, let's say you get calcium, but every day you're hitting like 70% of the target, 70% of the target, and you're an exerciser, right? You're your goal should be to strengthen your bones, right? But guess where your body's going to borrow calcium from if you're not getting it through the diet? It's going to borrow from your bones, right? So here you are on one hand working hard on this goal. You're in the gym, you're crushing it, and you're supposed to be strengthening your body, but you're not getting enough calcium, right? So you're borrowing from tomorrow, and you're not going to feel that effect literally tomorrow, but you're going to feel it at some point. That day of reckoning is going to come, right? You're going to have to pay the debt. Same kind of concept would apply to all the minerals, really, probably stealing from your bones. Vitamins, the fat soluble vitamins, maybe you've got some stored up in your fat, but do you have enough vitamin D to get through the winter in your fat? Are you even accessing that? Maybe on keto, you're more likely to be, but you'll probably not. Probably not. If you're somebody who's not supplementing vitamin D, even if you go out and get 3 hours of sun every day, there's going to come late February and you're going to run out. You're going to run into whatever, cold, flu, you name it, and you're not going to be optimal. So
my best vitamin D day, I was at 6%.
Yeah. I mean, vitamin D could arguably be the most important nutrient for humans right now, period.
They're saying there's some benefits to cancer too, cancer prevention with vitamin D, isn't it?
It's immune health, it's hormonal health, it's performance health. It will make you, I can't say it'll make you, but there's evidence where people, end up being stronger when they do a training regimen. The group that supplements with vitamin D has better strength outcomes. They have better physique outcomes. And the list goes on. We can go through, and we'll go through all of these and talk about why they're important. But here's the beauty of it. And that's exactly why I want to lead with this. We can talk about it from a framework of like, yeah, we're doing it, right? So it's just fun to talk about, and it's fun to reinforce and remind ourselves, but there's never a moment of panic, because I've showed you today how to do it. And so, yeah, it'll take a little strategizing on like filling in, okay, what are the actual foods I'm going to eat? It's going to be a protein with every meal. That's kind of across the board. Doesn't matter which diet you're doing. I will make this caveat. I don't think I'm working with anybody now. Well, I know right now I'm not working with anybody who's doing plant-based. But if you were doing plant-based, potentially the amino acids could be meaningful, one of them being short. Plant-based protein is not complete protein. If you're hitting really high protein targets, I would just be interested to see, I didn't do that experiment, how those amino acids fill out on that chart. But I would pay a lot closer attention and dig a lot deeper on the amino acids if I was on a plant-based diet in this app. But if you're eating animal protein, the only way you're coming up short on any of those amino acids is just software error. Like there's no way. They're all in there every time. Different cuts will have different profiles for sure. So like, we talk about bone broth, right? Bone broth is going to be high in glycine. Different collagen protein is going to be higher in the amino acid glycine, versus whey protein is going to be higher in like the whatchamacallit. Now I'm having a brain fart, but dang it, which one is that? Anyway, the amino acid that's most responsible for muscle protein synthesis, which is why whey protein gets so much hype, because it happens to be really high in that amino acid. So there is variation, but all animal proteins have all amino acids. And if you're hitting 200 grams of animal-based protein, you're not going to have to ever worry about having an amino acid deficiency. You could choose to target amino acids for certain things, right? If you're somebody who gets cold sores a lot, you might want to supplement with lysine. If you're having, some respiratory issues, you feel like you don't breathe well, you might use L-arginine. It's known to kind of open up the lungs, vasodilate. So there are a list of, kind of performance outcomes, functional outcomes that are certain amino acids are more advantageous for. But right now we're just talking about deficiencies. So animal-based is the way to go. But yeah, that was kind of frustrating going through the app, and I was hoping that it was smarter than it was. And I kind of had the realization is like, who's responsible for inputting these profiles, and, can they be trusted to be thorough and giving the correct mineral profile or whatever. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to say, especially if it's like boxed food, the answer is going to just be no. They're just not going to get it right. Nobody's going to check on my chicken tikka entry and, fact check it and go and clean it up and edit it and make sure that it's giving accurate amino acid and fatty acid profile and all that. It might even be that like the omega-6 issue is not an issue with that deep. It could, because, the chicken should have, I would imagine that one has some omega-6s in it that maybe weren't being accounted for. So again, that's why I think like a little bit of just general supplementation is ideal, because that's what's bringing us certainty, and it's not asking a lot of us. And I'd rather be certain that I got enough and maybe went over than unsure and hopeful, but possibly I'm going under consistently day in and day out.
I was going to say, is really the lesson here that supplements are basically required? Because, I mean, even if you eat the cleanest, you are very mindful about the foods you eat and what you're doing. And if you're struggling to hit your numbers, I mean, I looked at a couple of my days in Chronometer back from about 3 months ago. I mean, I had a day I didn't even hit my protein, sadly, and you guys can all laugh at me even though I can't see any of you. My lunch was bologna, which, come to find out, there's not a lot of good stuff in bologna.
Right.
But it hit my fat. That's why I chose it that day, and it's protein. But I mean, it's not a nutrient-rich protein by any stretch. I'm guessing it's probably virtually impossible to hit all your numbers. If you get all your nutrients, you're probably at 3,000, 4,000 calories, which is not healthy for anybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, 100%. I think that is a lesson from this exercise, is that supplements are necessary in order to hit the micronutrients. I will say this, the more calories you eat, the less necessary they become. If I was able to budget on 5,000 calories a day, I could get the job done without supplements. And I have eaten that much in the past. So, if you just hate supplements, then that's all the more motivation to like exercise like a madman so that you can exercise supplements out of your life.
that's insane, though. I mean,
Yeah.
what kind of a workout would you need to burn 3,000 calories a day? Swimming 3 miles a day.
Yeah, you'd probably be doing multiple workouts a day, either like training like a professional CrossFitter or training for an Ironman or something like that. Yeah,
That's insane.
Yeah, most of us aren't going to do it. But I hope that the other point of the lesson is that you don't need a huge list of supplements. You don't need a whole pharmacy, because I had the tendency, working with my other job, I've kind of gotten to that point where I had my own pharmacy, and that's all good and fun if you kind of get into that world, but it's not necessary. Like I demonstrated here today that you can hit the targets in 3 meals and 3 supplements. Right. And so that is a lesson. Yes, it's necessary, but I'm not asking you to go out and buy every supplement under the sun. And that's a mistake a lot of people make with supplementing, right? Let's say we go through this series and I hadn't done this one first. B vitamins are so important, right? I go through these B vitamins, and then you hop online and buy a B complex. And then I go through and I say, vitamin D is so important that you hop online and buy vitamin D. But I just demonstrated that you can get all of those from those 3 supplements right there and hit more than enough amount. So anything beyond that is purely by your own, personal pleasure. Whatever it is that you see fit, you can go beyond that. I do, I like black seed oil. There's some herbs that I mess around with and enjoy, some glandulars. Like I could talk about all that stuff, but it's not necessary. So today, the purpose of today was to demonstrate what it takes to hit the minimums. And the minimums are the minimum for healthy functioning of your system and maintenance of your, current weight. If you're doing nothing, I would lose weight on 2,100 calories, unless I was home, just sick doing nothing. That would be kind of like my default day.
I was curious, Dennis. I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of confidence in the targets that are in the chronometer. Have you done any research on it?
I don't have a lot of confidence in it,
Okay.
which is why I think the supplements become important in this game, because I have confidence that they're tracking the supplements accurately because they're listed on the label. I have confidence that it's getting probably 80% of it right, 90% of it right, if I had to guess. And I have confidence that without the supplements, I'm falling short in certain areas. I can't tell you, to 100% accuracy which vitamins and which minerals are certainly short, but I suspect that it'll be different every day, but that I would be frequently coming up short without those supplements. I do have confidence in that.
So my question was actually the targets that are set in the chronometer, like it says you need what,
Yes. Yeah, no, thank you so much. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. So those targets are, set by the Institute of Medicine. Those are the RDAs, right? And so RDAs are basically minimums. So this is a discussion today about minimums, right? And those minimums are set to accommodate, 97 and 98% of the population. If they hit those targets, they won't have a deficiency. So yes, this whole discussion is about minimums. That for me was my minimum calorie target. It was my minimum protein target, et cetera. And it was my minimum micronutrient target. So, and again, emphasizing why I would much rather supplement and risk going over than risk going under. Because yes, there's more and more evidence that most of those targets you can go well over. Vitamin D, you're going to go well over the RDA. And most people go over even the tolerable upper limit. So Institute of Medicine sets 4,000 IU for the tolerable upper limit. I do 5,000 IU, probably more because the cod liver has vitamin D. The amino acids, again, I don't think that's one we should track super hard in chronometer, but if you're exercising, you're going to need more. I need to look at.
Yeah. I'm going to have to drop, Dennis, to grab my next call.
Yeah, no worries.
Cool. I'll set up mine for next week.
Yeah. but yeah, Karen, there's definitely like the minimums, and then leucine, that is your muscle building amino acid. I had to remember that before we got off this call, or it was going to drive me crazy. They were going to revoke all my credentials. Yeah, leucine. But yeah, so there's, and then that's where it becomes a discussion as well of like, targeting your goals, right? If you're exercising a bunch, probably need more calcium, magnesium. If you are in the wintertime and you are run down, probably need more vitamin C or whatever. So that becomes a whole nother discussion. That's where you're going to do additional supplementation.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, obviously it's free website, so it seems like it's kind of set up for, not people with health issues or anything like that. It's like, hey, your body's working optimally. These are, the basic numbers you need.
100%. Yeah, for sure. It's set up again just to meet the minimums. So
yeah, yep. You're not going to get scurvy if you're taking.
Right. Yeah. But and here you are though, is like, if we go back and look, a lot of us aren't even considering that and not hitting the minimums. So we want to try and hit the minimums across the board before, we get carried away on some rabbit hole of getting excess, whatever, selenium or whatever. It's like, I've come across that as well. Zinc was the one that I most came across in the people I was working with at the store. Everybody's coming in, buying a ton of zinc, telling me how they're, taking 60 milligrams of zinc every day. And then I ask them what they eat. It's like, they eat animal based,
Mhm.
and I'm like, you're getting plenty of zinc. Like, zinc is not your problem. Let's talk about something else. And, come to find out that maybe they're way short on vitamin A, or who knows, you name it. Right. It's like, I think looking at this, doing this exercise just forces us to reflect, and see if there's something we're not overlooking that we're taking for granted. Like for me with the omega-6s, I fell for my own trap of just assuming that I'm getting plenty of it. And I'm thinking now that I actually need to be intentional about getting more omega-6s. And so, yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to save a lot of money on supplements. I
Yeah.
take a buttload every morning.
Right.
I want to enter in just all the supplements I take and see what the numbers are.
It kind of did that for me as well. I kind of like cooled off because I feel like I was just kind of in the dark. I was kind of just, supplementing blindly. I was like, I think I need this. This is good for me. I think I need that. And I was just like, take it. And then I ran this exercise. I'm like, all right, I can calm down. If Lincoln's, wiping his boogers on me, I can take some extra vitamin C at night. That's fine. That's appropriate. But I don't need to be taking a vitamin C shot every 3 hours or whatever. So it just helps. The more information you have, the better. And that's kind of the bottom line.
Yes, super helpful.
Sweet. Yeah. My goal is to make a couple more days. So it's like a more diverse menu. I know Dave hopped off, but I'll try and make one for keto as well. But yeah, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to lay that foundation. And so that way, going forward, it's not like, all right, you're telling me I need all these things. Like, how do I do it? Right. So at least we have this. It's like, how to do it. It's not asking a lot, and very, very reasonable, achievable, sustainable habit.
Yeah, it's definitely a food is fuel mentality.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is not my mentality.
Food is fuel. And our body, it has all these complex processes, and any one of these nutrients, they're all cofactors. And if you take one out, it's a chain reaction, you know. We just don't know what process is failing, and when one fails, ultimately the whole system fails in the long run.
Right.
Good deal. That's all I got.
That's good.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, El. Well, I'll send out the recording. Matt, thanks for inviting your friend. I don't know if that was the best first one to drop in on, but
Yeah.
hopefully she comes back.
Yeah. Hopefully, if they're interested, I can get them in contact with you if they want to do something more. So,
Sweet.
Cool.
All right, y'all.
Take care.
See ya.
thanks.
Bye.